What's up, everyone? My name is Wes, and you're listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast. For today's episode, we welcomed Jonny Darko onto the show. The Minneapolis songwriter and producer recently released his third album, The Deer, featuring a huge cast of collaborators. We talked about how the album came together, musically and thematically, how other folks got involved in the project, and a whole lot more. Without any further ado, here's my interview with Jonny Darko on the Ear Coffee Podcast. What's up, everyone? My name is Wes. You're listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Jonny Darko to talk about his latest album. Thank you for joining me on this Thursday night.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, just before we get into the music and whatnot, why don't you introduce yourself for the people at home? Share a little bit about the project, maybe introduce yourself, and you're kind of the mastermind behind it, I suppose.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Jonny. I'm like you said, I'm Jonny Darko. Just came out with my new album. This is my third full length one for this project. I have some EPs and stuff too, but I guess I don't know what else to say. It's like kind of indie, electronic, alternative music is kind of what I do. Mostly a producer, I guess, is what I tell people.
Cool.
My main thing. So, yeah.
We'll get more into that as we go along. I find that pretty much everybody who makes music, performs, just engages in the world of music at the level that we do, has had a really strong relationship with listening to music for a long time. How did you first really kind of encounter like music on your own when you were growing up? Like, what were those kind of formative experiences? And was there a time when you really felt like it was kind of your own thing instead of like something that somebody else was like showing you, or that existed around you, where it was like something that's like, no, I like, this is my kind of thing. Like, I'm really into this. Like, was there any kind of moment like that or experience?
Yeah, for sure. So when I was growing up, I was only really allowed to listen to Christian music.
Me too.
And so nice. Yeah. And so I do remember like one time when I was, I don't know, maybe 11 or 12 or maybe younger. I don't know. I was a kid, but um, we were at a family friend's cabin, and one of the ladies there, she was like a bit older. Like, she was my grandma's friend, and her daughter had like gifted her an iPod, like one of the old brick iPods for Christmas. And so she was asking if I could help her like figure out how to use it. And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, helped her set it up, and preloaded onto it was like a Maroon 5 song, and like an old Coldplay song. I think it was like Clocks by Coldplay, and like whatever the most popular like Maroon 5 song was at the time. And I remember like listening to that over and over again. It was like the first time I'd ever heard, I mean, for the most part, like contemporary secular music. And that was like a big switch for me of being like, whoa, music can be like so awesome and not just like the same formulaic thing over and over.
Yeah, not just worship music
Yeah,
and
that was a
stuff.
big, yeah, like no more Toby Mac and Newsboys and stuff. Like
Yeah.
it was a whole new world. So yeah, and then I would like listen to KDWB like on the radio, like in secret at night and stuff. And yeah, those were pretty formative. Like those were good times.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
When did you first start kind of making your own music? Like, whether you started on like piano or guitar, or what was the kind of first couple times like you were really starting to dip your toes in and kind of start that journey that led you to make all the music you've released over the past handful of years?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I started a band called Feed Us with one of my best friends, Ben. We actually still work together in the band, and I don't know. I guess I would say we were 14 or so when we started the band, and I got into producing music like right away, like recording for us. And I recorded my first solo album when I was 15, and I put it out, and it was like awful, of course, but ever since then I've been recording music and finishing up projects and putting them out. So I don't know. I mean, I say this is my third full-length album, but it's really more like my eighth or ninth. I deleted the old ones from when I was a teenager and like changed my artist name because, you know, I grew up, I guess. And the others, like my voice is cracking in the first stuff. It's it's a wild listen, but yeah, I've been doing it since I was 15. So
Yeah, I think some of those older albums are still on Bandcamp. I didn't listen to any of them, but I saw them on there, and
yeah,
I think like was
yeah.
Holiday the first one, or was that one of the first ones?
Oh, which one? Sorry.
Holiday, I think that's the title that I had written down.
Oh, no, that I think that what you're thinking of is actually a Christmas album by someone else whose name is Jonathan Fuller.
Oh, it got listed. It got added to like your page or something.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah, I don't know. That
If
guy
I'd
has been
listened, I would have figured it
around
out,
for a
I
long
think. But I
time.
was just like, I don't. We don't need to go all the way back to talk about the new record.
My first album was called Pillars of Salt.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh, yeah, it was a long time. Yeah, like 10 years ago
I think
at this
so.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, with those really early releases, like Pillar Assault and so on, even something like I just wanted to make sure I could say the title properly. Break of Solstice 666 Marijuana. I think that's the full one. I think
Yeah, you got it
that's the
right.
first release under Jonny Darko, like under that name. Um,
Yeah.
from like that kind of era of teenage music, and like when you're first kind of getting into recording through that first album, have you revisited like any of it recently, or like how do you kind of view that now that you've kind of grown and just moved past that musically and as a person? I'm guessing just with age. How do you still view those? Like, has your perspective on them changed since you've made them? Like, what are your kind of thoughts on that era of your
Yeah,
musical career?
that's a good question. Yeah, Break of Solstice, I I still love that project and I'm still super proud of it. I guess that I would say that was like the first one uh that I was really like, okay, this is, what I want to do like going forward. I think before that, I was doing a lot of different things. Um, I just really like experimenting with stuff. And that one was the first one where I was like, okay, like I know what I want to do like musically here going forward. And so yeah, that one I still love that project, and I still play like a lot of the songs when I play live from that one. Um, I definitely am not like in the same place of my life as when I wrote that project. I was like going through some major sad boy mode. I was like actually very depressed and living at my parents' house. I like just moved back to my parents' house after like living on my own for maybe a year or two. Um, and now like I just had my 3-year anniversary with my wife yesterday.
Oh,
I
congratulations!
live in. Thank you. Yeah, but my life is very different. so,
Yeah,
um, so like listening to it, I have a different perspective on it. Um, but yeah, Break of Solstice holds a special place in my heart for sure.
yeah. Um, I did specifically want to talk about the EPs, the kind of self-titled EPs you put out starting in
Oh yeah,
2020. Just because that was, I think, when we like Ear Coffee and kind of first came across your project. I don't know if if we found
sure.
it organically, if you were kind enough to reach out to us. But talk a little bit about how those three EPs came out. And I think if I remember, there was maybe plans for like a self-titled album, and I don't know if that was like what the EPs added up to, or if that was just something that went in a different direction. But yeah, just if you want to talk a bit about those releases and kind of what was going on that informed them and led you to make those?
Yeah. So the EPs, it's like three 5-track EPs that, um, yeah, I guess they could add up to like one 15-track album. I never put it out like that because I don't know, it felt a bit redundant, but um, yeah, they are all part of like kind of the same vein. Like there's definitely a certain sound to those three EPs that's unique, and I think with those ones, yeah. So I guess I would say those are like more carefree, like more sort of more me, like um, finding almost like a confidence in my voice in a certain way. Like you can see that as like the flip side of the Break of Solstice album, because that one's like very I don't know, it's like very indie and very kind of sad boy and all that. And then you know, the self-titled EPs are a lot more like boisterous, and there's a lot more like drums and stuff that are like really prominent and loud. And a lot of the stuff that I was saying was just kind of like larger than life uh feelings. Like it wasn't all super honest. It was just kind of like going with the flow of the song, and you know, not being afraid to just say something cheesy or dumb, and
Yeah,
you
like
know that
kind of adding, almost
if it
adding like
sounded
a bit
good.
of a persona to it, kind of like
Yeah.
hyperbolizing. Excuse me, I can say that word. Like that, a lot of aspects of
Yeah,
how you were
for
going across.
sure.
Yeah, cool. So well, I guess Symbolica is. I was under the impression there was a debut, but it's your sophomore record. Um, and recently, just a few months ago, you came out with your most recent record, The Deer, which is what we're mostly here to talk about. Um, just kind of coming across that and working on it, like what was your process for approaching this batch of songs for this album? Um, it feels pretty intentionally like conceptual between like the title and like some of the interludes, and we can talk a little bit about that more too. But when did these like the songs and these ideas kind of start formulating and coming across in a way that may be familiar to anyone who's listened to the album?
Yeah. I started writing this album um like last June, like right after Symbolica came out that summer. So I worked on it for about a year. Um it is like a lot shorter and more concise, I think, than you know, Symbolica, which is a little bit more expansive. And part a lot of that is actually due to my friend Sam, who has a music project called Babbymore that's like instrumental electronic stuff, and he just got like this great ear for album sequencing and stuff, and really convinced me to like cut a bunch of songs and like sequence it in a way that was a lot more concise and kind of one, you know, he's like, you need only like 30 minutes of audio, and just put these 10 songs, this is what sounds cohesive. Like, so yeah, I had a lot of help from him. And yeah, with this project, I really wanted to try to start doing some more like collaborations. The last one was just like very, well, in the past in general, it's, you know, really been me in a silo, like singing about my own stuff and uh, doing everything myself. And so, like, I want to get like more people involved and kind of have like features on a lot of the songs. And I want it to be like more of a positive or like hopeful vibe to the album, as opposed to like the last one was kind of spooky and like dark. And so I was kind of like, I feel like I've done that, you know? So I wanted to take a little bit more of like a colorful, bright turn. I was listening to a lot of Donda that summer. Um, and so I don't know, just some of those sounds, like the pianos and like the minimalistic drums and stuff, and like the choirs. Um, yeah, I don't know. That was kind of like my big influence, I guess, at the time that I was like listening to. So yeah, I'm really glad, like, or I'm really happy, I guess, with how it turned out and everybody that like ended up hopping on the project. I think really like, I think it ended up just perfect. Like the people that were a part of it and all of that.
Yeah. Uh, did you know pretty much right off the bat that you wanted to bring in a lot of collaborators, or was that something that kind of dawned on you as you were starting to put the songs together and just kind of continuing that? How did you like reach out, like end up working with all these different artists? Like it was just kind of like this massive list of like kind of just really cool, just very different artists and musicians and bands from around the cities. Like I was super surprised when
Yeah.
I looked at the track list for the first time. It was like, oh, like you recognize a lot of the names, and it's cool to
Right.
see everybody kind of coming together. Yeah, how did these collaborations come about once you started realizing and decided to go in a very collaborative direction and try to bring in a lot of people to work on the project?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess to answer your first question, I did kind of have in mind like to do uh a more like collaborative vibe before I even started writing. My I was talking to my friend Lydia like last summer after my last project came out and kind of just like musing about what would be next for me, I guess. And she was sort of, I guess she sort of like challenged me almost to do that and like to make a project that uh was like more about, I guess, society or like a more universal experience. Which I don't know that I totally pulled that off, but like I don't know that idea of just like kind of shifting the focus uh off of me or like was really like intriguing to me, and that sort of is what I guess just kind of got me in the mindset of like I want to have other people like all over this project, you know. So yeah, and then as far as like how I met these people or got them involved, um a few of them I had like met or knew. Um, like Cuckoo, I've actually known for a long time. Bobby, I played a show with him, and like I've met him through people. For Kaylee and Kaylee Kitzman and Forgive Me Wavy, I actually just DM them on Instagram. Like I never actually met them; they just sent me their parts,
Oh hell yeah!
and they were artists that so I do a weekly like roundup for melodic noise media.
Oh word,
One of your
cool.
competitors,
Yeah.
maybe. I don't know, not really, but yeah, so I write their like little 3 to 5 sentence reviews for their playlists. So they just send me like tracks every week. And so Wavy and Kaylee were just artists that I found out about through doing that I was like reviewing their stuff. And then I was just like, oh my gosh, these people are super talented. And I just like DM'd them on Instagram. And then we ended up meeting like more recently at some of the shows. Like me and Wavy like opened for me at my album release at the Amsterdam, which was super fun. But like that was the first day I'd actually met him in person, which was kind of funny. Like because I love his part on the project, and it's just like perfect. So it's like I felt like I already knew him, and yeah, Kaylee too. Like she performed, she's performed to Moon with me a couple times now, but yeah, at those shows were like the first time that we met in person. So
Cool. Yeah, glad that an in person encounter was finally able to happen. Um,
yeah,
I did also want to ask about, at least I think in the way that Apple Music like lists things. There's some songs that have like more of like a co-billing. I think with like Loon Booster and Garland, I think were two of the names on there. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't know if that's like an intentional, like it was more like a co-production with these folks, or if it was just like an additional kind of aspect of the collaboration. But uh, yeah, what were their roles in that, or like what is kind of going on with like these, I guess more like co-billings, at least on the listing for a streaming service, which
Yeah.
is a great source to have. But
Yeah, so Garland actually is like a piano, like a instrumental piano project that my friend Hank uh has been like working under, like that's his pseudonym. And so like really early on in the development process for the album, I knew I wanted to have like a lot of pianos on it. And so I I went over to his house and just like mic'd up his upright piano, and he kind of like improvised a bunch, like the track Holy Lands. Um, the whole piano for that, which totally dictated like the entire melody of that song, was just like a chopped up series of like chords from like an improv session with Hank. And then so his piano pops up on a few tracks, Tie My Rope, and I'm like forgetting the other one. But um oh yeah, like the end of Moon, that's him too. And so yeah, I guess his like feature is more instrumental. Loom Booster is actually the like the guy talking in those weird
oh, is
interludes.
this the recording for the interludes? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, that's my friend Ben. I was telling you about that that we have a band together. Like he's my best friend. I've known him for a really long time. So I just had like these audio clips of like a conversation that we had um that I like chopped up and turned into the interludes.
Yeah.
And so
Were you like planning to record something, and like even if you didn't know what you were going to use it for, or was that just kind of like a serendipitous moment where you just like kind of did, like you were having the conversation, you're like, oh, I might want to listen to this later or something. You just turned
yeah.
your like your phone recorder on or something. Like, how did those kind
Um
of come about going into how they ended up on the album?
well, this is a little embarrassing, but they're actually from like a podcast that we recorded in
Oh,
our
hell
maybe like
yeah.
late teens that we never released, like, but it was kind of during this like time of life that we were both in, where we were sort of like processing through certain things, like kind of coming of age, sort of like reimagining and like moving on from our like religious upbringing and stuff. And so it ended up fitting perfectly, like well yeah, it ended up fitting really well like thematically with kind of the overarching themes of the album. At least I thought. And I just stumbled across it on my Google Drive one day and was like, whoa. And I like listened to the whole thing and I was like, I gotta use some of this. So but yeah, we never put the podcast out, and I don't think we ever will, but
Well, it turned into something.
that's what
So
that's from. Yeah.
yeah, it's not embarrassing. You're literally on a podcast right now. If there's one time to talk about
Yeah,
other
yeah.
podcasts, it's the time is now.
But I feel like now it like back then I feel like everyone was doing podcasts, and then now I feel like it's sort of like a cliche, like the two white guys like just talking in their basement about like random bullshit, like thinking they're so smart, which I mean whatever, that's
Each their
I'm
own.
just
Like
glad
I'm
that
not gonna knock
I
it.
don't have one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
um,
yeah, that's what that was from.
yeah. Um, when you were kind of first conceptualizing the record, like the kind of early conversations where you kind of realized the direction of the album or that you wanted to take it in, as you worked on the music and kind of incorporated all your ideas and your influences there, how did you go about kind of like melding the two together and like combining like the actual music that you were writing and everything and like your lyrics with these? I mean, the lyrics are a little more obvious, I guess, but like mixing and like combining it and just integrating it with the actual concepts and like the ideas you were wanting to touch on with the album, like overall.
Yeah, I feel like I tend to write the music first, like instrumentals and stuff, and then kind of write lyrics afterwards. And so with this project, I think more than others, like because the time that I worked on it was fairly concise. Like, I wrote all of the songs probably within 8 months or so. Um, I think I was able to kind of like stick closer to a more like consistent thematic theme. And especially because, too, like, this is sort of the first time I had almost like a vision going into it of what I wanted. Usually it's just like, you know, this big, weird, like, emotional vomit, and then I just like kind of pick up the pieces of it afterwards and like form it into something that isn't totally like disconnected. But this time, yeah, it was a good feeling to kind of be able to have more of a direction from the start. And yeah, like the the musical stuff that I was like interested in creating was just sort of like naturally in line, I think, with the the themes that I was like trying to go for on the project. Just because like that's where my headspace was at, and it was such a short amount of time. So
Yeah, just kind of easy to kind of corral all those feelings when it's just like that smaller period of time. And uh
right.
yeah, cool. Yeah, so the album is available everywhere, like streaming services and everything. It's on Bandcamp. Actually, excuse me, it isn't on Bandcamp. Is it only just streaming for now, or are there other ways that people can check out the album and support you?
I actually didn't even realize it wasn't on Bandcamp. I feel like I've always been very diligent about like uploading it to Bandcamp, but I guess I forgot to this
Oh
time.
no.
So I'll have to do that. I'm actually glad that you pointed that out because
Yeah.
I do always want to have it on Bandcamp in case somebody decides they like to, download that all the extra stuff or whatever. But
Yeah.
so yeah, I will be uploading it to Bandcamp.
Yeah.
But
Hopefully by
yeah,
the time
it's
this comes out, it'll be up on Bandcamp and people can check it
yeah,
out there too.
pretty soon too, there's gonna be a like a video on YouTube of the whole thing,
Oh,
and it's sort
cool.
of like a live performance. It's not exactly a live performance. I guess it's like more akin to a studio performance. It's got like some of the people who are on the album, and then my whole like visual show is kind of featured on it. So
Oh, yeah.
if you
Cool.
wanna if you wanna watch, you'll be able to sort of watch on YouTube soon
Cool.
too. So
Cool. Uh, yeah. The album's The Deer came out in July. Um,
yeah.
so speaking more generally now, just like describe or think of a time when you really felt like like this project, like this current, like using the Johnny Darko moniker, like when everything with that project really, you felt like you were accomplishing what you wanted to kind of accomplish. I guess you felt like a moment of kind of like you were really touching into like what you wanted to do creatively and musically with the project. Maybe it was like at the album release show or listening to like first mixes of the album or something like that. But like, were there any moments where you really kind of got a sense of that?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like there's been a bunch along the way with this one. Like, um, I think the one that kind of stands out to me is like in the very final stages of like mixing and assembling everything. I had like um probably like six or seven of my like closest friends and collaborators who a lot of them work on music. Some of them are more video guys and or whatnot. I like invited them over to my studio to just do like a listen through and like take notes. And I printed out these like lyric sheets with different like visuals and stuff, like some of the AI art that I've been like generating and some sketches to like follow along. And um, yeah, so I was like kind of able to play the whole thing like in order in its current form for people. And that was like a big moment, like just getting their reactions, like, and their feedback it was kind of like I don't know, I guess I've always kind of wanted like um my music project to be a more communal process, or like involve more people, and it always does, like, to a certain degree, but that was definitely like a really nice moment of, having all these people that like mean so much to me be able to kind of like hear it for the first time and like help send it off, like shape it in its final form. So
Oh yeah. So looking forward, what does the future kind of hold for you in the project? Like any upcoming shows, like already working on new music? And you already mentioned the kind of visual accompaniment to the album that'll maybe be up by the time this comes out. If not, it'll be coming soon. But beyond that, what does the future hold?
yeah, I mean, who knows? um, yeah, I have a show at Dayblock in the beginning of October. Um, just like an opening set. Um, I recently like partnered with Tinderbox Music. So I've been kind of like trying to do some promotion stuff. Like I always kind of
Oh, is that
give it my best
Krista?
shot before I move on.
Is that
Uh,
Krista or is that someone else?
Tinderbox is like a music promotion company. There might be like that's like in the Twin Cities.
Yeah.
The guy that I work with is Brandon.
Okay. Yeah.
He's like their radio guy. There may be someone named
Yeah.
Chris
I just
there
the name's ringing a
for
bell,
sure.
and yeah, there are
Sure.
probably more employees than just the one person. I
Yeah,
digress.
I know a lot of local people who um have worked with them. So, and they've been great so far. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess that's more like behind the scenes stuff. but but yeah, I got that video coming out. That'll be my next kind of thing, and then we'll see from there. Like I'm looking to do more shows. Um it's sort of tough like when you're trying to play shows like in the same city like over and over again, and you're like inviting like all the same people. It's like, hey, come to this show and then this one. So I try to like balance it out a little bit with like, I don't know, playing every few months or something. um at least for like the big ones. um so yeah, we'll see what happens, and I'll probably start working on a new project soon. I'm kind of always working
Yeah,
a bit.
between this or Jaguar or something else. Um,
Yeah,
so
feed us and in this.
yeah, I like ending every interview kind of in the same way. Um, I love hearing just what, especially like local, but really any underground and kind of underappreciated bands and artists you've been listening to lately, or have maybe come around on lately, and just kind of who are some local favorites that you want to send us off with some shout outs. I don't know if you need to like pull up Spotify or anything,
Sure.
but just like, yeah, spreading the love, I guess.
Major shout out to Loon Booster. Major shout out to Present Company. Forgive Me Wavy. Um, Jane October. Harlow.
Yeah, just go through the whole feature list.
Garland.
They're all worth checking
Yeah,
out.
I mean
Yeah.
these artists like are all super talented. Bobby Rethwish, Cuckoo
Yeah, shout
Ka.
out Bobby. Shout
Don't
out
sleep
Cuckoo.
on them. I mean, they're awesome. And there's so many. Like I said, I've been doing those little write-ups for Melodic Noise, and so it's like the perfect excuse to just like find more and more local artists like every week, which is just awesome. So yeah, but yeah, I'm always listening to those. Yeah, my friends in Present Company, they're like some of my best friends. They helped a lot with this album too, and they just released their self-titled album that absolutely slaps. Like I'm super happy for them. And yeah, Loon Booster, he like one of my best friends too. Yeah, he just put out his like second EP, so definitely check those out.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking time out of your evening to chat with me, Johnny. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The Ear Coffee Podcast is a companion to the blog of the same name. If you like this episode, Please leave us a rate and review so we can stand out among the other music podcasts. You can follow us at Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram @EarCoffee. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.